Hey, Ron.
Hey, Ron.
How you on?
Good.
Hey, I'm glad I'm back. You too.
Looks good up there with all the gravel spread out there, doesn't it? Do you need that roll?
What's that?
Well,
Trying to get it back.
You're just gonna
Oh, no.
What did you pepperoni? You got it.
No, I left him at home. If he was out for him, he'd yell.
He
If I brought him in here, he'd cry.
Mayor, I'm gonna walk out of your meeting. So don't be offended.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, literally. I hope it's not freezing. Okay.
No, they do like everybody leaves those jackets. I know, yeah. He's not that. I suppose he'd be okay. If I put him in his bag. Better.
You know what, as a mark, is.
Got it?
This was the Oh, yeah.
I know, I do. I do. I don't make
I don't know.
the most greasy.
Well, I live in
So they
Hi, how are you doing? I'm glad you guys are here. Oh, we are drinking.
Hey, Angie. Hey, good.
get a chance to find this out. But it is, it's on the
There was a flag that was even older before this.
Hey.
Good to see you again.
Of course. I'm not sure where we do it.
Whenever I get in,
Hey, how are you, Dee?
Good, how are you? Good seeing you. Yes.
Yeah,
I mean, really, the citizens are very right. Well, there's the ones that identify areas.
But if you want to know, like, that way, maybe we're like, I don't know. You work with Aaron? Sorry. You work with Aaron? Do you want water? Oh, I'm good for right now. I'm just trying to stay out of the way right now.
They've changed things.
That's why
Our regular singer, they don't have our, oh, look.
You know Glenn?
You know, I don't know what's in the house. Kayla, yeah.
Hey, Jerry.
Bobby, Mark here. Hi, Bobby. Yeah, there
Hey,
you are.
Martha.
Hey, Mark. Good to see you in person. See your name a million places.
How are you? So good to see you.
Dean and Caleb, you know, it seems like they all got in 6 months. You're diving a lot.
Enjoying it, man.
Yes, yeah, you know, I mean, they're still fit. So. You guys say you were out?
You know what happened to the recycling container?
But they go up here. And they go. Yeah, so,
I wasn't even thinking that. Hey, that's why. Good. Very good. Yeah.
Susie
Oh, no.
Appreciate it. Just have it open for you.
Yeah. Yeah. How we doing?
You know a little bit about water these days?
A little.
I
know, I drink it. So.
I'll be there.
I'm supposed to sit, so.
Yeah, there you go. Well, we're a little bit late, but that's all right, right? So, hey, everyone, thank you for coming. We've got a lot of really great guests that have joined us tonight, including town residents that I'd like to make sure get recognized. And but first of all, I want to introduce Stephanie. Stephanie is part of an agenda that is not affiliated with the town, but has asked to speak for just a moment. And so we'll give her the floor for just a moment, and then we're going to proceed with our normal meeting with an invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
So, my name is Stephanie Williams. I live over in Pockerville. So, we've been helping the Leeds Town Hall initiative for quite a while now, actually. But we need to get 150,000 signatures in order to get the Utah flag issue on the ballot. If you don't know what the Utah flag issue is, the governor and the legislature have changed the state flag for Utah. Most of the voters wanted to keep the old flag, the blue flag. And so what we're trying to do is get on the ballot and the voters get to choose. And so in order to do that, we put a lot of signatures. So if you're interested in signing to get on the ballot, and again, this just gives the voters a choice that says take the flag. Anyway, we're out here. Linda's right here. She also has a petition if you want to sign it. So that's what we're doing.
Stephanie, thanks for your efforts. This is all volunteer. So if you have any other questions, you're welcome to ask Stephanie. She'll be just right outside, but also right here. So I'll ask Councilman Kundick if he'll provide us the invocation, please.
Our Father in heaven, we're assembled here tonight to learn more about things happening in the town and how we can influence it for the good. We pray the Holy Spirit be with us, that we can be continual and learn how we can advance the interests of the town and the residents here. We appreciate those who have given their time to give the night to help us to address some of the issues of the places. We thank you for living in this choice area and for the blessings you brought to this town. Yes, I bless you again. Amen.
Very much. Will the audience please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? And begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Thank you very much. So this is the first town hall that we've had for Leeds. This allows us to state all of the regulations and restrictions that are associated with a town council meeting or a planning commission meeting, all of which have to follow certain guidelines. And so in doing so, elected to find someone amazing to be our moderator. And I'm looking, and of course, my wife's like, it's me. So I'd like to introduce you to my wife, Troy Hofster. She's going to be the moderator tonight, and I'm going to hand this over to her.
Okay, well, first of all, welcome to our public town hall meeting tonight. And we're grateful to have the opportunity to ask any questions that we have about the town, and we can ask Mayor Hofster. There's also some distinguished guests here tonight. And so I want to welcome Sheriff Nate Brooksby
Hello, thank you.
and Washington Water Conservancy Manager Zach Renstrom and Fire Chief Joe Decker. And it looks like he has a couple of other fire people with him. Thank you for being here tonight with us. Okay, so the way this is going to work, first we're going to hear from Mayor Hoster. He's got some kind of state of the town address, sort of general comments for us. And then after he does that, then we'll have an opportunity to come up and ask any questions. So in doing that, if you'll just form a single line at the podium, and you'll have 30 seconds to ask your question. So this is questions only. It's not monologuing or anything like that. So if you'll come up and ask a question, I'm going to be timing the questions. Hopefully it won't be an issue, but I brought this little red card because I've seen that done before. So if I hold up the red card, that means your 30 seconds is over. And so we'll hear from Bill, and then we'll do that. And then if we have time, he wants to end about 7:30 tonight. But if we have time after that, we would love to hear any comments that you have or any solutions that you might think are relative to some of the questions that are asked here tonight, or some thoughts. We'd love to hear those. So, and if we don't have time for that, Bill's information is on the website, and you're welcome to email him or call him anytime with those. So we'll get started, and if you'll just form a single line, if you have after his comments. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Troy. Well, thank you so much for everyone who was able to show up tonight. I know you have busy schedules and you have busy days, and sometimes you're not able to make town council or planning commission, and you're kind of wondering what's going on in the town. And sometimes you can email me and get answers that way. Some people aren't even comfortable with that, or I might get the phone call and, and you get this one-page newsletter. These sorts of things just really don't give you all of the insight and information. So I didn't recognize some of the other people who were here, and I'm not going to point them out by name, but we also have our town planner here. We've got several council members who are here. We've got some developers who are here. We've got some business owners that are here. And I think it's important that LBWA is represented here. And so this is our town. This is what creates us and allows us to function in safety and prosperity. So I really want to open up the floor to making sure that everyone, and we said 30 seconds. Okay, we're trying to keep a limit on it because I think what will happen is someone will get up there and monologue. And so we just want to set a precedent, okay? Please don't do that. We've got a full house, and we want to just be respectful to everyone's time, which is the reason for doing that. So I'm going to point out a couple of things. We're almost at the 2-year mark. I don't know what's going to happen after the next 2 years, or after this 2 years. It's it's been an amazing time. I can tell you that climbing into this was a series of a couple of events, that brought me into this, thinking it was maybe a 15, 20 an hour a week gig. It is far from that. It is a full-time gig. And I'm so grateful that I don't get paid because I couldn't get paid enough to do it.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it is a wonderful honor to serve every person in this town, even the ones who yell at me, the ones who like to call me names on social media. I still love serving them because I know you're mad at something. You don't even know me, but you got to take it out on somebody, and I get that. It's okay. And we work through a lot of really hard problems. Some of them have been like drinking from a fire hose and trying to learn all of the law, all of the code, all of the the different land ordinances and things as we move in and out and weed through these kinds of things. But I can guarantee you that one of the things I found the most admirable about our entire town council and planning commission and volunteers is that every one of them are doing it to the best of their ability with altruistic meaning for the betterment of this town and everybody involved. Yeah, so I want to point out just a couple of things that have happened in this town, you know, and this is just a couple of the things. We have amazing things happening every week. But, you know, I want to point out, if you get a chance to thank our county commissioners, they paved Oak Grove for us, Oak Grove Road, Silver Reef Road going up to Oak Grove, all the way over to the center, or over to the museum. They paved all of that for us at no charge. It took some elbow twisting and some things on our part and making some squeaks, but you know, that saved the town probably a couple $100,000. Thank you. And so that's a big deal though. If you get a chance to thank those county commissioners, just a simple email would be wonderful. We've had some significant efforts on our cemetery. We've had some wonderful cleanup that Doris has been a part of. Lori Hunsaker was a member of the city council for some time, and she got proactive in trying to find some of the property lines that needed to be adjusted. So once she resigned, Danielle Sterling picked it up, and she has been successful. In fact, on Friday, we signed all those deeds over, and all of that is going to be done. And so I think we get quite a few new cemetery plots out of it, but you know, it's another movement in the effort of trying to improve the legacy of Leeds. Something that's coming up, and I'm glad our representative from the Water Service District is here, Zach Renstrom, but we've got Main Street is going to be torn up here in a few minutes. And so I don't want you to yell at me, I want you to yell at him.
Thank you.
I'm kidding, Zach. No, this is a very necessary project that we're participating in. They have been wonderful to work with us on these things. They've got a 14-inch line that's running up the center of Main Street. They're giving to us to help with mitigating some of the flooding that happens along Main Street that we haven't been able to get UDOT to resolve. And so through creative efforts and fiscal efforts, we've been able to work with some of our engineers to tap into that 14-inch line. It's not the end-all solution, but it will mitigate an enormous amount of that water during the big floods and run it out to the end of Main Street into that area that just got all burned up. But that's owned by UDOT down at that very end. And so we're going to be able to flood all that down there instead of the people's homes that are along Main Street. And so they've been wonderful in working with us. But that whole line that's going to be going up Main Street, Mr. Renstrom's going to be able to answer any questions that you might have about it. But I'm glad he's here to explain that, because that's a big component of southern Utah's water and how we're functioning with what little we have and maximizing its use. The other I want to talk about is we have a new development that's going to happen, and it's been on the books for about, I think, the last 15 years. This is called Grapevine Wash. Well, yep. So Grapevine Wash has really kind of a bad connotation with it. I've read all of the past history, the legal briefs on it. I've read all of the minutes on it, and what a conundrum. And for those of you who don't know, this is just a volatile situation that ended up in lawsuits and settlement. And all of the people who were involved with that are gone. Okay? There's none of the original people who were associated with that are involved with it anymore. So I've been in touch and in good communication with the new owners and what their intentions are. And they're they have great affinity to try and work with the town in making a wonderful community out there that has already got approval. That approval occurred a long time ago before this administration ever came on board. Now, the other efforts that are going to be associated with that are the water, the sewer, the infrastructure, and how all of those things are going to happen. And so, again, Zach's here as a part of that, but I can tell you that, in our dialogue with those developers, the water was sold before they bought that property. And so I don't know if LDWA is going to be able to work with them, but Washington Water Conservancy has offered to start to begin to work with them. And so there's that project that I'm more than happy to answer any questions you might have that I'm able to answer. I also want to point out, we were able to keep our post office, which I think is a pretty cool thing. Thank you. Yeah, we came really close to losing that. And it's amazing when you're talking to federal government workers who just don't get you and don't care, and it just falls through the cracks. And I want to give a big applaud if you ever get to see them, Shirley and Kevin. They were wonderful, but they hit a point, they hit a wall. They called me, we got involved, and we got it to happen. I don't know about the award of the contract, if that was the way that everybody wanted. Didn't have any part of that, but I can tell you that I'm really glad we got to keep that here. The other is Valley Road. Every year, Valley Road ends up with getting flooded out. Everyone along there is livid, comes in here once a year and just eats that microphone because they're so hot and angry about the water coming in. This has been going on for 50 years. And so this year we fixed it. We had Mark come in. Mark retrenched all of those, I don't want to call them culverts, but they're trenches along both sides. And then we were able to place culverts in each one of the driveway aprons. And then we got some homes that wanted to add their own. We were able to do that. We ate the cost on the labor. All they had to do was pay for the piping. And it turned out really good. So that's fixed, and we don't anticipate ever having a problem there again. So thank you for all of that effort, Mark. So folks, the way, yeah.
Hey, he's right here.
So, and we've got people who participate behind the scenes a lot. We've got the Bloom Committee that produces a lot of our organized parties, if you will, or activities, is the word I was looking for. They do a fantastic job, and they get very little thanks for it. Most of them are kicking out of their own pocket. I know a lot of the city council or town council does that too. And it's just all in an effort of service, trying to make things really nice here. Little efforts to try and make it a little prettier and a little better. And I think each one of us do that too with our neighbor, trying to extend that little extra effort to be kind and make it a nice place. And I think that's what makes it a wonderful place to be and live, and why I love to serve here. So that's my monologue. And I'm going to open this up to questions. As Troy mentioned, we do want to make sure that everyone can hear. I think, I didn't see anybody walk in with hearing devices or things, and you probably hear okay without the amplification. We are on YouTube. We are streaming live. So, let's try to make sure that we don't do anything bad. But we also have Sheriff Brooksby right here, in case you want to get out of hand. You can see his technical skills. So if you'd like to go ahead and if you've got some questions, just go ahead and step up to the microphone, and I'll answer them the best that I can. Don't all rush at once. By the way, there's water and snacks back there that were brought into us by leaders. So
It's awesome.
yeah.
Where's the recycling barrel for the water quality?
I don't know. I thought we had isn't it right back
Go
there?
on.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll grab it back. Thank you.
Question. Originally, it was going to be 2,500 residences in Grapevine Park. Question is it still going to be that often?
Yeah, that was a big deal with the Grapevine Wash, was how many unit occupations were going to be allowed there. And it went from that down to 1,400. And the last number I know right now that they're looking at, it sits around 1,000.
Okay.
And we're also talking with them about trying to implement some commercial, because it's all been residential right now. We would be in favor of trying to see some commercial come in there to try and facilitate.
And school maybe?
That's a state thing or a county thing, but I think that'd be wonderful, and they also offer to work with middle housing, so that, they can donate some of the land and some of the property to, in construction to allow for, lower income housing, under some restrictions that allow, them to have the same kind of home and everything. They're just not able to flip it and make money on it and things, but yeah, it could be a really good thing. Great question, though.
Wow, thank you.
Same topic. I can't remember what is the acreage that is involved in the Grapevine Wash situation.
So if you want to look on this map over here, yep, this is all the purple, yellow, and green. Right there is Grapevine Wash. 454 acres, there we go. So it's a significant size. What's that? If you want to make any comments, you're more than welcome to.
It's 369.
Okay, 369. He's one of the developers with that. We do have some developers here, by the way. If they want to chime in at any time, pretty informal. Yeah, but I think it's going to be an amazing development that they're trying to work with the town with. Again, we can't shut the door behind us. We can't deny people their property rights, but they have come in and openly willing to work with the town and try and create the atmosphere and the aesthetics that are going to be conducive to our general plan. Arthur.
Pam, I don't know enough about Grapevine to even ask any questions. I'd like to meet the developer. I'd love for him to stand up and give us a thumbnail description of his vision.
So we wouldn't hold you to that. You're welcome to do it if you want to take a couple minutes and talk about some of the stuff. The problem that I kind of am concerned with is that once he does that, the whole meeting turns toward Grapevine. And so if at the end you want to take some time to do that, I think it'd be great. I can tell you that there will be absolute full transparency as we're going through this. So in my discussions with them have only been with regard to the infrastructure and how we have to do an interlocal agreement with Washington Water Conservancy and with Ash Creek Special Service District. They are a special service district in and of themselves. And so we're going to be working with them on how those agreements will work, but everything else thereafter will be an open and transparent dialogue that will occur at Planning Commission and at Town Council meetings. We wrap them up.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this.
Bring it on.
I live in homespun, and we're like in between you and Tokerville. We're a little bit worried about all the development coming from actually both sides. Because I think we all love being just ourselves, And so, I don't know. I guess the reason I came up here was just to say that, not every area has to develop. It doesn't. Some of our properties around us are amazing. What is that? I'm done? Okay. I'm done.
You want people to sign up, right?
Yes, please, anybody here?
So I'll be great comment. And it's a tough gig. I moved here for the same reason, folks, because I love how rural we are and how I don't have traffic jams and I don't have, a lot of the problems from where I moved from, which was in a very metropolitan area. And we both lived in Chicago for a while. I lived in Raleigh. I've lived in San Diego and Salt Lake City and Sandy. So, I get that, difference. And quite honestly, I love what we've got here. The problem is those people who bought those properties have rights too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so we have to be able to respect those in the past, I mean, let's be real, we've been able to use this, study that prohibited anyone from putting a structure or development that would require a septic tank 9 acres from another septic tank. And that was working for a while until they started to move forward with sewer. And now sewer is going to make all of that obsolete and they're going to be able to develop. Now, I mentioned this at city council the other night. If you don't like it, buy it. That's the only solution. We can't come in here and make other people as a town not exercise their property rights. We just can't do it.
I understand.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. But fortunately, we've been blessed with all of the developers who have wanted to come here, have absolutely respected our general plan and all of the ordinances and statutes that we have in place that will keep us with the way of life that we have wanted. And so I think those things are important. And we're going to be changing some, I'm sure, as we go along further. But I've been really impressed. I haven't had any of them come in and tell us, this is what I'm doing, whether you like it or not. None of them. And so that's been really good. By the way, if you guys don't know Michelle Peon, you should, because this woman, she works behind the scenes. She's one of those I was trying to mention at the first who no one really thinks or recognizes, but she has provided so much background and research and legal for me as the town council, and without any acknowledgement. So Michelle, you're awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so just for that, this actually might be a background question. Even though towns sign a development agreement, it doesn't guarantee that they'll have water. And my understanding, as of the mayor's meeting that was a couple summers ago, I think Ron is in their absence, was that there were a very limited number of taps available for residences. So in the case of Grapevine Launch, we're talking about 1,000 homes, where it's a bring your own water type of thing, or where would that additional water come from?
That's a good one.
So that's actually a really big deal, Michelle, that the town is dealing with right now. We have had one water company in the town. Now, I'm going to speak out of two sides of my mouth here. I'm going to speak from a legal side, and I'm going to speak from a municipality side. So from a legal side, what we're looking at with a water company, with one water company in the town, that is a monopoly. And when you have a monopoly as a utility, typically a municipality dictates how and when, why, and where, in all circumstances, how that utility runs. And that hasn't happened here. We've had a wonderful relationship with our LDWA, and it's just kind of gone on, where this is a private little water company that does their thing, and the town has nothing to do with it. Well, that's kind of going to have to change, because there are only so many water shares that the LDWA can distribute out, and those are called will serve letters that they're allocated, and they kind of have an estimate of how much they can do. Thereafter, we can't tell property owners, hey, you can't build when other water is available. Washington Water Conservancy has been approached on multiple circumstances to provide that water. Now, what will happen is the town will also do an agreement with Washington Water Conservancy to enable that water to come into Leeds and to provide water to those property owners. How that'll be facilitated is yet to be known. We have multiple options that we can exercise. We can just have LDWA facilitate all of the administration. We can have the town facilitate all of that administration, or we can have Washington Water Conservancy facilitate all of that administration. But what we have to do is look at all of the functioning, or all of the factors that are associated with this, and then consult with attorneys, which are always free, right? And, you know,
So much fun.
Yeah, like grants, but we actually are very diligent with working through the law and making sure that we are not denying somebody their property rights to make sure that they're able to exercise those. We're also wanting to make sure that we're working closely with our partners like the LDWA, but we're also, the number one is making sure that the municipality is not in liability. So, Michelle, great question, and I'm so glad you brought that up. Jack, do you have anything that you want to add to that?
If you have additional questions, I'd be happy to talk afterwards.
Yeah, I guess the question is directed at you from the conservancy side. My understanding is there were some limitations a couple of years ago, and so is Tokerville Reservoir providing that additional water, or are they bringing their own water rights?
So Tokerville will provide additional capacity to the system.
Zach, you want to come up here?
I don't want to
Do whatever you want, you can do it, maybe.
So Washington County, we have a 20-year plan now. So basically, we went and looked at every drop of water that we've developed in the next 20 years. And so that plan is online. You can go to our website, pull it up and look at that, and it outlines all the different projects and the capacity we get that from that. And really, where we're getting our water is from 3 sources for the next 20 years. And so one of that is reuse. So we're taking, right now, 98% of our sewer water, we don't utilize it. We get rid of it through different means, and sometimes we just let it go down to Nevada. So we're going to start recycling all that water, 100% of it. Number 2 is conservation. And so we have very aggressive conservation goals for new construction. And if you're in an existing home, we have some really good generous rebates. And so you've probably heard about the grass rebate program that's going on. So we've had, I think it's up to like 1,900 applicants for that program, but it's exceeding our expectations. And so when we rip out some grass out of someone's home, that frees up that capacity for us to apply that additional capacity to another home. And then the last thing is like Toker Reservoir. We're applying several new reservoirs. Toker will be one, like Cove Reservoir. There's some other wells that we're going to rehab and bring those on the system. And so those are the 3 sources. And so when we put all these sources together and look at our growth patterns, we feel confident that we will have capacity for about 72,000 additional equivalent residential connections. And so we use that term because the hotel would use more. Then when we look at our growth pattern and a very aggressive pattern, that's about 20 years. And so the cities are in the process of formally adopting that plan. If Leeds came in, that would be one of the requirements, is that Leeds City would also have to adopt that plan moving forward. So that's kind of where the water is coming from.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
About the Tokerville Reservoir? And thank you, Zach, I love you. It's gonna be just down the street from me. And how is that gonna benefit Leeds in general? Like, as far as water? Because from what I understand, it's going to benefit the agricultural and stuff, but not necessarily people that are drinking the water. I just want to know.
I'll take a swing at it, Zach, and if I miss or hit a foul, let me know.
That's fine. Either one of you, it's good.
My understanding of it so far, Bobby, is that, that there are multiple reservoirs and there's possible one more that could be happening in Warner Valley. But the idea is that we retain that water.
As long as it stays here.
Exactly. Now, you look at California and over 98% of their water is not retained and goes right out into the ocean. And, and then they sit there and complain about their water issues when we see exercises that Nevada has taken, Arizona has taken, and now southern Utah is taking to retain that water and do reuse systems. So this pipe is going to allow for the Washington Water Conservancy system to move that water to areas that it's needed most. And so they're also going to be using secondary water for irrigation and things like that.
But I thought that this new reservoir was going to be secondary water. Is that correct?
I don't know. Is it just secondary water or?
So do you guys know where Coker Springs is? So if you go over to
to Tokerville, you see all those green fields, that's coming from a spring. And that is a pristine quality of water.
And you wanna save that.
We're gonna do a swap with the farmers. So we're gonna take that pristine quality water and start drinking it and give the farmers the water out of the reservoir. Now that system ties right up to the new tank we just built. And so we'll be able to take Tokerville Springs water and pump it up to that tank. And then that new pipeline, or the existing pipeline, that water could flow down here.
Thank you for that clarification. That's great.
Okay, but we're gonna be drinking good water, right?
Yes.
Hello. I am kinda sorry,
We
but
have amazing water here, isn't it? I mean, it's awesome. It's awesome. Lynn Potter, yeah.
All right. My name is Lynn Potter. My sister, who's a planner for San Diego, they have a very successful sewage recycling program there. And they drink it because it's that successful and the water is that good. But it took them a long time to convince the people that the water was good to drink because they had a very bad marketing plan called toilet to tap.
thank you, sir.
Be
You
smart on
make me
your
feel
marketing,
better
all right?
because I do
Okay.
love Zach.
That's all. Good luck.
Thank you for that. You know, I'm gonna segue as we get another question up. I also want to segue into another topic that, you know, is bordering on our communities. So go ahead, Dee, and then I'll lean into that.
Okay, I'm from the county. I hope it's okay if I speak up. Not part of the city. But my question is, how's the budget? And where we are bordering Leeds and Tokerville, Tokerville being pretty aggressive. And at some point, we may need to annex. And my second question is, how is Leeds budget? Are we gonna need to plan to maybe do some annexing and add a little bit more commercial to get the tax base? I'm curious to know just where we're at financially.
So great questions. Our budget is one that resides almost solely off of property tax. And so that's a tough gig. And I mean, my business budget is far more than what our town budget is. And this is almost a rounding error, what our town budget is. And so, you know, when I look at that, I can tell you that I have to look at source. What brings in the dollars? And what brings in the dollars is certainly when we have, you know, more residents that are involved, and we have some impact fees that kind of help with that stuff. But what really helps is commercial. And like we have Jim here. Jim Coleman is the person who owns the strip mall up at the top of the road here and is our largest commercial provider in the town. And we need more of that. We saw our store leave us and turn into kind of a vacant lot for the last almost 2 years now. And it's been, you know, crippling to a lot of people in this town that needed the essential staples, and they don't have a way to drive down into St. George or over into Tokerville, and they're kind of, you know, it's heartbreaking. And so we're trying to find ways, you know, to bring those into town and increase our budget. As we get more expansion, we are working with the county's economic developers. We're identifying businesses that can come in. This new silver building up at the top of the road there, that's a new bakery that's coming in. I've already had communications with them. They'll be contributing, you know, for those taxes as well. And so those are the things that help us with our budget, but it's very thin. It's very thin. Sorry, Jim.
What about annexation and the unknowns there?
So the annexation card is really tricky because we look at some areas that are in need of severe infrastructure development. And if we were to do that, it would require the town to bring on a bond to repair dilapidated infrastructure that has been neglected. Part of that is dealing with the county and how can we bring this up to snuff with their dollars and our dollars and bring them into a town that's going to maintain them going forward. And so as we've looked at, for example, Homespun had a huge problem with their water, not too long ago that you're familiar with. And it was, I think, about $1 million plus, to remedy all of that because it was just dilapidated. Silver Hills or Hidden Valley, whatever it is, Angel Springs, same situation right now. And it's gonna be millions of dollars to repair all of that. And so how we finance those things and is a big component of that annexation. Does it help us bring in some additional tax revenue with the property taxes compared to the amount of debt that we're gonna have to go into to try and repair their infrastructure? So we negate those things, we might be able to get state funds, we might be able to get county funds, bring those things up to, a state standard and then annex them in and maintain it. Hope that answers. It's a very complex question.
At the same time, you don't want Tokerville to annex everything and get the commercial and tax base.
That's right. You don't want them to just.
Well, so I'll address that one head on, and I'm sorry, Jim, 1 second. So when I first came into office, someone calls up and says, hey, you ought to go to this UDOT meeting down at Dixie Center. So I did. And I'm talking to some of the guys in there and they're like, oh, you're at Leeds. Yeah. So, what do you think of this whole new development going in? What whole new development? Oh yeah, they're going to have like this huge wave pool and 3,000 short-term rentals and hotels. And what are you talking about? None of us even knew about it. Not even our mayor. And so, I started making some phone calls, and this was that Zion's Point that was up there at Anderson Junction. And so we got the CPO, and I can't remember his name now. He came in and kind of spilled the beans with us, told us everything he was doing, and the mayor of Tokerville was kind of involved with it on levels he shouldn't have been, and resigned. And but then that whole project kind of went south and foreclosed. Now I've been in contact with the current owners and talked with them about what their intentions are. And, their whole thing again is they've spent a lot of money on this property and they want to make sure that it renders them, they want to avoid a loss, which everybody would want to.
It's just a matter of time, yeah.
Yeah, and so can Leeds provide them the means that has a win-win, that it helps Leeds and it also helps them? Can we provide the zoning that is going to benefit them? Now, Tokerville is looking at this and going, hey, this is out on the other end of town, not going to have a darn thing to do with us. We're going to do whatever, whatever, and we're going to collect the tax benefit.
Didn't that already get annexed though to
No.
Tokerville?
No. And so, we're in those conversations, we're talking with the county about those things as well. And, of course, ultimately, we want to respect the property rights of those developers. And then we also want to make sure that we're not costing the town any money that shouldn't be spent. And then we want to make sure, again, it's a win-win situation for both. Thank you. Yeah.
Jim Coleman. Thanks, Mayor, for making this meeting available to us to come and sound off on some things, and all of us learn more. And I think the last comment is a great segue to the question I want to ask. I'm interested to know what the town council and planners are doing proactively to address these issues, as opposed to waiting for some issue to come up or a complaining citizen. We've had mentioned here today about a water line coming through the city. Addressed. What about the sewer issue? What about related issues that come to this kind of an improvement district coming through here? I'd like to know what the time frame might be and what the plans are for those kind of things, please.
Okay. Great questions, Jim. So I can address that we've been involved from soup to nuts on the water line coming through. So this road is UDOT property, but UDOT also has a local agreement with us with regard to it running through our town. And so we've been in all those meetings and we've been in constant dialogue. Now, the conversation was to see if we could bring in Ash Creek and have them, while this is all torn up, throw a sewer line in here. So Ash Creek came to 2 town council meetings, and we had some favor, some had not, and we had 180 conversations with, yeah, we were going to do this, and now we're not. We have opened the conversation to Ash Creek to say, hey, look, if you want to throw a line up here, the town is more than likely in favor of it. Now, in years past, they have not. And the situation, I just want to point out that's associated with this, they use some state funds and they also have private funds. And I might botch this a little bit, but I'm going to do the best I can. There are statutes that are state that require if you are within 300 feet of that line, then you have to connect to it. And the reason being is that they have to get their money back from the investment. So in talking with the director over there, I believe his name's Mike Coleman, they found ways that we might be able to negate that, not forever, but we could allow a citizen to not have to connect and use their septic tank until the septic tank goes bad. And then you can't replace the septic tank, you gotta connect to the line. Or if you wanna move, the new buyer has to connect to the line. Some contingencies kind of associated with that. Well, that's kind of where it all died. Now, we did have some developers that came in that wanted to, and this is so long-winded, I'm so sorry, folks. And you thought I just kind of sat around and got paid nothing, right? No, this is, and so I had more conversations, and some of the developers are gonna shake their heads at me on this one, but there was this thing called a PID, a Public Improvement District, that they wanted to utilize to build this infrastructure, to pay for this sewer to come through, which is common. But after talking with all of the other politicians and mayors and leaders in the county, they were like, don't do that. Because what ends up happening is these people end up paying double in taxes and their neighbors across the street end up paying half. And so the developer walks away with a very large paycheck. As a result of that, they buy it at bottom market undeveloped price. They get the town to help to sign on the financing of the development, and then they sell it at full market value while the new buyer pays the monthly dues on that debt. And so those conversations weren't pleasant, by the way. But nonetheless, we stood strong in saying we don't want any PIDs. We're not going to sign on any PIDs for these. Now, one developer has come in and said, you know what, we don't want a PID, we're going to pay for it. We're going to pay for the infrastructure to come in. And that has been great by wash. And so, as I understand right now, they're working through different ways to get all of their infrastructure in. We have said, if you are doing commercial, we will consider a PID. Because that makes sense. It's 50 years, right? That commercial building is going to be there. It's not getting flipped every 3 years and a new owner is getting hit with a large tax bill. And so, we're trying to look at that with them. But our conversations are about every other week on trying to identify ways that we can help finance that infrastructure to come on through.
Hi, Danielle Sterling, and I feel the most important part of this town running simply is knowledge first. We explain to the general public the steps that have to occur before a developer can be approved for development. I think it's imperative for you to explain the process that when you meet with developers and that promises can't be made to developers by one person due to the process of the land use authority, which is the planning commission, and the legislative authority, which is the town council. And then the second question I have is for Zach, but what protection do the farmers have in preserving their water rights if there's more growth in water? And is the goal to take pristine water from all farmers in the future, and do Tocqueville farmers have a choice in that? So if you'd like to answer those.
Zach, do you want to hit the first one, and then I'll talk about the journey with developers?
So the Tocqueville is a little bit unique because the water district actually owns all the water. So the farmer sold that to the district when the district went in for their secondary system. So we only buy from willing sellers. So we will never condemn. We'll never condemn land for water or anything like that. We never have done that in the history. My chairman of my board is a rancher and farmer, and he would fire me if I even suggested that. But what we have noticed, though, is that when the farmer does sell it to a developer, that's when we pick up the water 90% of the time from these farmers. So we actually, right now, heavily subsidize a lot of farming right now in the county. We will continue to do that.
And so the other part of Danielle's question was, how does it work with a developer in the town? That was drinking from a fire hose for me. And I can tell you, and all of the developers who are here can tell you that they will ask, what do you think about? What do you think about? And I'll tell them, this is what I think, but it doesn't matter what I think. We have a town council of 5 people that sit up here, and it's what they think. And so that is always a caveat to every answer that I give. Now, when we're talking about the development of a subdivision, so they have to go through a process of receiving the rights to exercise what they want to build. So they have to have the water. That has to be something. They have to make sure that sanitation, so the health department, whether it's going to be a septic tank or the sewer, and can they get the other infrastructure available to them? And once they have all of these things, then they come and they talk to the town planner, and they kind of go through a checklist of those things. And after that checklist is done, then they go to the planning commission. And then the planning commission looks at all of these aspects of what can and can't be done according to the current ordinances, according to what can and can't be done with regard to precedent. And there's just a litany of issues that have to be addressed. Once that is done, then they recommend up to the town council. After that, the town council, this board of members, looks at everything and makes an opinion with regard to can they move forward. Typically, it will be with condition. And they can table it, or they can say yes, or they can say, we'll allow this, but we want this, 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 and this. And then a vote goes. And it's a roll call vote because it deals with land. Once that is all done and all of this gets executed, at any time, if there's a violation, it can be revoked. And so there's a lot of restrictions upon a developer that they have to follow and go through and all of these processes. And they're trying to work with the town and all of these things. And the town is also trying to work with them because I think as it was brought up, if we're not growing, we're dying. We all know that. And so the reality is we're trying to make sure that this is a win-win situation all the way through. And so both parties are working with each other the entire time. I hope I answered your question. Yes.
Susan, go ahead.
Susan Savage. Hey. Leeds is a split energy. In the Salt Lake Valley, there were probably 20 different, what am I doing here?
You're great.
20 different municipalities there to begin with, and they've grown into one big massive thing. And so as the transportation issue has exploded, then a lot of neighborhoods have been torn out. Santa Clara was also the main road to Santa Clara to the center of it was also UDOT, which before I just knew was built. Santa Clara has done something in their planning to require developers around them to create their own accesses to that old road, so that they have not been allowed to tear up the center of town. And so my question is whether Leeds has a plan like that, what the plan is, and if we don't need a plan to keep. In the past, as development conversations have come up, then there was conversation about traffic studies and how we'd have to have stoplights and maybe some of the homes would be taken out along Main Street. And so what kind of plan do we have to avoid that as development coming around?
Thank you for that, Susan. So we do have a general plan, and that general plan assesses all of those things the best it can. Now, it's not written in stone, but it's also a general plan that gets referenced when any of these things come up. And so a part of that involves Sunrise Engineering doing traffic studies. And in fact, Daniel Sterling was very involved with a lot of that as well as I was, to make sure that we were looking at what's happening going up Oak Road, the secondary accesses. When we have so much population, how big does the road have to be? How wide does it have to be? And all of those things are residing right now in our general plan. And those should address everything that's going to happen over the next 15 years. But that's, again, not written in stone. We don't know what's going to happen, but we gave them our best forecast as they put those things together. And so those things are supposedly in our general plan.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah.
Don Fonson, just a couple of things. Bill, we've been working, with you on water, and water has also been a limiting factor in our town in the past. with the water conservancy coming in, it's less so. And so those opportunities open up. The nice thing about having a separate water system in the town has been the fact that because it takes so many volunteers and you're drinking from a fire hose, and we're drinking from a fire hose. And so it spreads the fire hoses out. And so we hope that we can continue to have that relationship. Our purpose is not to be able to provide large amounts of quantity for big developments in the future. It is not even possible with our source and with the infrastructure we have. So what we're trying to do is to take care of the infill within the town and those areas that have brought us water already, like Sidla and Silver Eagle and Silver Point and so forth. And that will be our focus and continue to be our focus. Bill mentioned some of the things that are possible relative to water and the relationship with the water district and so forth. And we're looking forward to those conversations. One of the things that I wanted to ask was relative to development. Now, if the town were to annex Angel Springs, that would be a cash disaster because there's already infrastructure and problems going on.
As it stands.
Yeah. However, with new developments coming in, those kinds of things should fall back on the developer themselves to be able to develop that. They're going to have to work with the power company, they're going to have to work with the water conservancy, and they're going to have to work with the sewer district. So I don't see those as being initially things that would drain the town's finances. I just don't see that. Do you see that?
No, thank you, Don. And those are components of the cooperation between the two parties that we try to facilitate. So appreciate that perspective. I'm going to shift gears a little bit here, and I want to talk about a meeting I had this morning with the mayors in southern Utah here, and we're fortunate to have Sheriff Brooksby here. But I don't know if y'all realize, and we also have Chief Joe Decker here, we don't have our own police department, and we don't have our own fire department. We're working with the county sheriff's department. We're also working with a service district for Bergen Valley Fire Services. And so those are a big component of any kind of development and expansion and issues that go on. And we're very fortunate right now. I know not all of you love seeing a sheriff parked along Main Street. Doing 45 or 50. But I love it, seeing how we have had amazing coverage from our sheriff's department throughout the town of Leeds. And part of our conversation this morning was involving the drug trafficking that's happening. And we've got some big problems that are out there. And I think that it's imperative that we understand, and I'm just going to surface it at this point, that we need to help fund some of the activities that are going to be happening behind the scenes to try and mitigate those problems. Now, I heard a statistic from, I think it was not too long ago, within the last month, but the amount is about 150 people, 140 people, enough to fill a 737 that are dying from drug overdoses every day. So that's a 737 crashing into the ground with no survivors every day of people who are dying from drug overdoses. Now, this stuff isn't just coming in from the southern border. We also have prescription abuse. We also have other problems. But that is about the number of people who are being affected by this. Not just the ones that are dying, it's also their survivors. And, we've got families now that are living with widows or widowers with kids and trying to survive. So this is a big problem that we have. We also have our fire department that's dealing with these issues too. Medical calls have started going through the roof. And, we're fortunate that we've got Station 42 down at Coral Canyon that can be here in about 5 minutes. In fact, saw them racing up our street this morning. But we've got to also pay attention to some of these things and funding these components, which we've kind of let slip a little bit. And so, as we start to get presented these issues, I hope you're gonna be cognizant of how we have to fund the resources that are going to contain this stuff before it gets away from us. And, Sheriff, if you wanna make any comments about that, you're more than welcome to here.
Yeah, but anytime you have growth, no matter how hard you try, you're gonna have growth in crime too. It's just inevitable. Fortunately, in Washington County, we still live in a really low crime area, right? But some examples, I used some statistics in our meeting with task force funding. But just for example, fentanyl pills, right? You never know where you're gonna get because the super labs in Mexico aren't very good at quality control. So the end user doesn't know what they're taking. So we're seeing a ton of overdoses. Just an example, in 2020, we recovered like 600 or 700 pills. This year we're at 176,000 pills just in 2023. So we're getting loads of 60 and 70,000 pills, and just one of those is killing kids, right? Nationally.
But where is that? Is that in St. George?
That's in Washington County. 176,000 pills just in Washington County that we recovered this year.
We get a lot of them right here.
I-15, major pipeline, right? So we do proactive interdiction shifts. We're trying to get those pipeline cases, the heavy loads coming up, typically out of Southern California, but 98% of it's coming out of Mexico. And China's sending the chemicals to Mexico. They're mixing it up and making pills, pressing them into little blue ones. They got creative. They're making them look like Skittles now to make it more appealing for kids, right? So that's just one of the major issues we're dealing with. So every one of my deputies has 2 doses of Narcan in them, on them. So we're administering Narcan. We had some get into jail 2 weeks ago, and we had 2 inmates that went down. The nursing staff got to them. They thought they were dead. One ended up taking 4 doses of Narcan. The other took 6. Fortunately, they didn't die, because when that happens, I get bad press on me. So, but with the town growth, so with Tokerville, they've got a pretty dramatic population increase that's anticipated in the next 5 or 6 years. So we're already working with them in some additional patrol time. So it's kind of an a la carte thing. So as you grow, I never want to sell you anything that you don't need, and you're always going to get a really good deal from me because you're all paying property tax, which helps support my general fund.
So you're going to be here. Like
Yes, yeah. So right now in Tokerville, we're doing.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We do proactive police work, so they're guaranteed so many hours per week. So they just pay a flat rate per hour. They can't afford to have a full-time deputy, and they don't really have a need for that with the call volume. But I ran stats this morning. Law enforcement call in Leeds in the last 12 months, we responded to 513 of them. So still pretty low. I mean, about what, 1.5 a day average?
Still here.
Yeah.
We're happy to see you.
And some of those are crashes on I-15 or drugs on I-15, Anderson Junction. But we do have domestic violence. We do have drug houses. Anytime we have a drug house in the county, we spend a lot of time and effort to try and shut that down. Could be an Enterprise or New Harmony or wherever. So, but we run, county employees, I've got 172 employees. About 54 of those are the patrol side. We're really active in the drug task force and gang task force. So the county, even though we have 8,000 residents, maybe in the unincorporated areas, I have 4 full-time detectives assigned to that drug task force. So we're taking it really serious that we're doing our part to try and keep our quality of life where it is. That's the whole goal, right? As you grow, we want to try and keep that crime rate down. But at the end of the day, it's quality of life that we want. We want to maintain that quality of life in Washington County.
Thank you.
Sure. Thanks.
Question.
Yeah.
About 10 years ago, we had like 4 patrol cars out in the county.
That was about, so right now we on a full shift density, lower income housing out there on East Telegraph. They've had to add personnel to the police department just to handle the additional call volume out there. So that's a component of it. Anything else?
Could you comment on organized crime again?
Yeah, so we just had 2 weeks ago, the majority of our gangs in Washington County are outlaw motorcycle gangs. So we have the Mongols are the most prevalent. Mongols, it's just a national motorcycle gang. But they had a big rally here 2 weeks ago. So our gang guys got a flyer and it said, hey, on this day, we're gonna have a big celebration in Washington County. Then it says, call a fellow brother to find out time and location. So we're trying to track and figure out, you know, we got information that might be in Washington City, we got information that might be in Hurricane City. So we had basically every law enforcement agency in the county helped step up. We sent an incident command. We had like 30 officers that were ready to kind of combat that. Well, it just so happened the event was in Apple Valley. So I thought I was going to help. I was going to be helping Washington City or Hurricane out. Turned out last minute they were helping me out. Now most of those individuals were staying in a hotel in Luburican. So that's something we made a suppression effort. So we're traffic stopping them. We had a couple of public urinations and things like that. Impounded some uninsured motorcycles, but we had some comments that basically from some of them that they'll never come back. So that's a good thing.
Thank you.
I do have this idea. So most of those outlaw motorcycle gang individuals, the members, they're 30 and 40-year-olds. And I just find it weird that the 30 or 40-year-old wakes up one morning and says, hey, I'm going to join the outlaw motorcycle gang.
This be a problem.
Like, who does that?
Yeah.
So, anything else?
Hooks and Bloods, are they still around?
No, that's usually a East Coast, West Coast thing.
Because it was a problem about.
When I first started, our biggest problem were Hispanic gangs, but by far those have kind of dissolved. We work closely with ICE. That a lot of the teenagers that were involved in those gangs, their parents were here illegally, so we worked with ICE to get them shipped back to the country they came from, and they just kind of went away, or they ended up in federal prison. But right now, by far, you've got the Mongols, the Vagos that are trying to claim Washington County as their turf. It's kind of the name of the game. So, Karen, question for the sheriff?
Well, I was just gonna say, I was a deputy here in the eighties for
Okay.
Washington County.
Did you drove an Apple Crown Vic probably, or?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Crown Vic.
they're bulletproof, you know.
I just wanted to say that I always found, I worked under 3 different sheriffs, okay? And the problem I saw working there was basically the administration, and that involved the lower echelon people as well. And so even though we had a number of deputies, a lot of people don't know that I was the only deputy for like 3 days out of the week, covering the entire county. And the sheriff would say, just stay central, you know? So Tokerville, New Harmony, Hilldale, Santa Clara, a lot of those places weren't even getting visited during the nighttime, you know? So, recently I've know some people in the sheriff's department, and I went there one time on another deal, but, so I know you probably have detectives, lieutenant, sergeants, stuff like that. And the problem we had in my day was we had a lot of these people on the day shift when we really needed them out in the county.
We're big enough now that we don't have that issue. We have just as many people working nights as we do days.
And I was doing over 300 miles a night, just trying to cover all these small towns, you know, and stuff. But I just was suggesting that when you get people out from behind the desk, and get them out into the public, you know, and that's my recommendation.
Yeah. So we're like I said, so I'm 27 years in, so I've been 24 years with the sheriff's office. So I remember trying to tell him. I remember being short. Maybe we had 2 deputies to cover the entire county. The entire county is 2,500 square miles. So it takes me an hour and a half to drive from west of Enterprise and Nevada border to Hilldale or New Harmony. Right now, I feel like we're fully staffed, but we do have deputies that are spending time in Enterprise and Hilldale, and we've got contracts with Apple Valley, Tokerville, Enterprise. So we're really spread out. I feel like, and it isn't a day shift heavy thing anymore. Like I said, we have equal numbers of deputies working nights and days. The night shift has just as many as the day shift has.
And just a suggestion that kind of coincides with the town here.
Sure.
When the town actually paid me $250 a month to be a resident. And then we also, the Leeds Town of Leeds had a justice of the peace. And so we talk about revenue.
Well, that's probably a good segue.
Go ahead.
But I'm just gonna say, so, and then my main concern though is when you're talking about growth, you say if you don't have growth, kind of rot. I don't believe that to be totally true. I talk to a lot of people who say, when I tell them I live in Leeds, they're like, oh, that is the most beautiful little town. And why is that? Because we are the littlest beautiful town. We're not, I just see struggling to grow is gonna cause a great demise for us if we continue to try and grow strictly for revenue or.
Hey, buddy, you gotta buy up all the property for us. No one else can build.
Well, I always thought if we just had
Everybody
a,
wants us to spend it, right?
I just always thought if we had a kind of a rule that, instead of growth, you buy an existing home. And that's, as soon as the existing home goes up for sale, there you go. If you wanna live in Leeds, take that out,
All right,
Thanks, Sheriff.
Sure.
So I'm gonna segue a little bit onto that, with regard to understanding the way our law works around here.
I don't know if this microphone's working all the way. I'm just gonna talk. So one of the things that have been confusing that we did over this past administration was our ordinances had no teeth. So there was no ramification. If you violated an ordinance, all we could do was send you a nice letter. It says, hey, you're violating this, please don't. And for the most part, people were great with it. They fixed it, resolved the issue, no problems. Okay, but then we've had some problems wherein those people have said, no, I'm not gonna change this. And so now we have a situation wherein we're compromising maybe health, safety, or property value to the other people. And so this past year, almost a year ago, we were able to implement ordinance code enforcement. And so as a result, Morgan, do you mind standing up? So we hired Morgan. Morgan is our code enforcer. And what he does is he receives your complaints. He doesn't go around looking for violations. We don't do that. But when we have a code violation, Morgan receives that. Morgan has to go through and he has to verify the code. And then he has to talk with either myself or one of the other city council members. And then we talk with our attorney. And those are all code issues. Now that's separate from what we're talking about with the sheriff's office. Okay, the sheriff's office is going to deal with criminal and other issues and even maybe some civil issues. But the reality is, when we're talking about our code violations, we're going to be dealing with Morgan, and when we're dealing with criminal issues, we're going to be dealing with our sheriff. And so just wanted to make sure that those clarifications were understood. It was a big deal, a huge deal for us to implement code enforcement. We had to implement a hearing officer. We had to have a code enforcement officer. We had to go through all of the ordinances and make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. We're still not entirely 100% sure we got it all, but nonetheless, we're on the right track. And so far, so good. We've had some that are, problems, but we're getting there. And Morgan, thanks for all you're doing. I know it's not a job everyone says thank you, for being here, but no, you're doing a fantastic job. So thank you very much. Go ahead, Don.
Yeah, this is both on police and fire. So we actually did have a police department here in town at one time. And that car out there was not just the only thing that was involved in that. And that worked out really well. And then as Gene mentioned, we did, for a time, the town actually paid a stipend to officers who actually took up residence here in the town. That'd be pretty a cost of their housing. Fire department. Back in the early 1970s, the town didn't have a fire department. We were depending upon St. George and Hurricane. And so our ISO rating at the time was 10. Is ISO still?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So we started the fire department. We also borrowed money and we upgraded the water system. Hence the cement tank up there that we all love so much as we drive by. But in doing so, we were able to, because some people were not actually able to buy home insurance, fire insurance.
I got it, 30 seconds.
Okay. That's it.
If you have a question.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
So it's relative to ISO. As I understand it, ISO says 5 road miles to the nearest fire station in order to receive benefit of that. We're more than that right now at Coral Canyon. We were one of the premier fire departments in the county at one time. But, so tell me, with this new development you've got down there, are you putting in space for a fire station? And then what are you doing as far as the fire department to increase service in this area of the county?
Joe, you're welcome to make a comment on that. I'll preface it with right now, we've got a mayor who has kind of squashed our efforts to try and sustain the fire department's budget. We found different ways to be able to bring revenue to fund the fire department, which have all been just problematic, and I deal with it weekly, and it's taken more time than I could ever imagine. But we haven't given up. We're still finding other ways through the legislature to try and find ways to safely man a fire department. We can't just have 2 people go out on a truck. All they can do is show up and watch the building burn. And none of them can go in, and none of them can actually, they need at least 3 people and preferably 4 people to safely function, so they go home to their families. So we have been trying diligently to find a way to fund these things. We've had a lot of resistance that it still boggles my mind, but we're definitely trying to find ways to bring the funds available to Hurricane Valley Fire Service District, of which we're going to stay a part of. Same with the sheriff's office, we're going to stay a part of that. We're not getting our own police department, or fire department, we're going to stay with this. So Joe, if you want to address we haven't talked about a fire station out there, but I know you've got plans for up here.
Sure, yeah. I can answer a couple of your questions. Hopefully I'm speaking about that for you guys. On your ISO question, yes, it is 5 road miles to qualify for your ISO, the point bonus that you get, and that affects everybody's homeowner's insurance. The good thing about it is we do use the Leeds station here, the old Leeds area station, which we have people in. I have 3 people that are stationed year round. It's not 24/7, but they're there. So you do get that bonus credit if you're within 5 miles of that station right now. Obviously, I'm going to go back with what the sheriff said also. With growth comes, population, which is also going to affect all of our call volume. So we have to strategically put stations at the places and try to catch those 5 miles. Our district's very large. Can we put a station 5 miles from everywhere? No, we can't, unfortunately. But we're going to do our very best to do that. I can tell you with our Coral Canyon station, we can have an ambulance, paramedics, and a truck in this town within about 4.5 minutes. It's pretty quick. Plus we have Laverne, and we also run another station back by Walmart that can cut over through Quail Creek and be here fairly quick. So we're always looking toward the future. Once again, we're looking at our plans moving out. We have a current impact facility fee plan that scheduled us for 6 years, shows different stations we're going to do. It's going to hit the point, I'll be honest with you over here, that new station's going to have to be built and probably have to be manned 24/7, just because of the sheer amount of growth.
I'm just gonna say, our neighbor had a fire and that truck took a lot longer than 1.5 minutes.
And it depends on where they're at.
And that's optimum. That's optimum circumstance.
And then when they got there, they were struggling with getting the hose out, getting the pressure up on the thing. It was just amazing that house didn't catch on fire.
Yeah, I can't comment to individual incident. We have so many of them, I can't tell you everything goes on to every incident.
Steve, appreciate what you're doing. Just to comment, I just want to make sure that we're requiring a space for a station down in these areas so that at some point when the funding's available, we're able to move out there and not trying to buy high-priced land.
So I can help answer that one. All of these developments come through, since we are a district that is the fire authority for this whole area. Every subdivision, every home that's built, everything comes through our office, our fire prevention office. And we look at every one of those plans and say, okay, what is our future? Where are we looking at putting a station? I'm not familiar with this great white watch, right? we might look at that and say, okay, yes, it's a big enough subdivision, but we don't need property there because we already own where Leeds Station is now.
It's within jurisdiction where that station.
It's within that 5 miles of an existing station already. But I can tell you, Anderson Junction right now, I'm in talks with a developer up there, looking at putting a station. Tokerville is going to need a station here probably in the next 5 to 6 years. We're looking on the south side of Hurricane. We're looking at Virgin. Everywhere that we cover, we're looking at places to come put stations right now. So stations are the cheap part. I'm going to be honest with you. Yeah. So
Go ahead, Danielle.
I just really want to personally thank everyone here for volunteering and also health, safety, and welfare of our town. Thank you very, very much. To wrap up this one last thing, can you go ahead and lead on where the new freeway, if you have that information, where the new freeway is will be?
So how many people heard about that? All right. I was hoping to not have to talk about that one. And the reason being is because a lot of it is not known. So in fact, that developer just left. His development that's going up where Mills Road is, if the number of homes that they're anticipating and the number of homes that are associated with Grapevine Wash go in, we have a problem. We're going to have 3,000 vehicles going up and down this main street because there's only one on-ramp, off-ramp here, one on-ramp, off-ramp over here. And so we talked with the MPO about another interchange, which they call it a 4-leaf. So it's a clover, and it would have on-off for both north and south. And this is scheduled, not within the next 30-year plan right now, but if these developments come in at the track rate that they're looking at, would probably be in the next 5 years. And this would be just north of the 900 North, so Babylon Road is where they're anticipating that to be. Now, there are setbacks that have to occur with this. No, they're not taking out Susan's home. We already had that happen once, and that's already been in discussion, but they can't do that. And so they have to go north with that. But there is intent to put in a 4-leaf there. So all of that traffic will get on and off the freeway there. All the traffic up at Anderson Junction will, their secondary will be at that 4-leaf. Main Street will be completely left alone and almost a ghost town. It won't be a mistake. And it won't be a UDOT property anymore once that occurs. So that'll be a change as well. That'll be unfortunately a little negative on the town because we'll have to maintain it, but after that, it is what it is. So, yeah, Jim.
What do you mean by it won't be UDOT road anymore?
So right now, UDOT owns Main Street.
Yes.
And
it's not just here in Leeds where they own this route, Road 91.
The reason is because we have split intersections. One going south and one going north. If it were a covered, then they wouldn't have to have an in-state fee.
So I want to thank everyone for showing up tonight because your involvement, your feedback, your support, and also positive or negative, really makes this count and makes things work. Again, you've got just volunteers who are coming in and doing the best they can. We got one full-time staff person. And if you get a chance, thank her. It was surfaced that we underpaid her. We don't, but we made sure of that last year in the budget. But thanks goes a lot more than $1. And so I think the efforts that it seems to make in this town, hope you get a chance to thank her for those, because she really does go above and beyond. All of you go above and beyond. We have, again, just a lot of moving parts and things. We don't want to see growth come in here that's going to take us over, like Washington and St. George. And so we have to keep our finger on the pulse constantly. I can tell you that when Zion's Landing was coming in, it was bulldozing over us. And we had people that put brakes on it and said, hey, wait a minute. And thank goodness we did. I don't know what happened or why, but we were in the right place at the right time to put brakes on all of that. It was going to steamroller over us, but we would have had nothing to do with it. We had no seat at the table. So all of these things and our ability to work with these developers and making harmonious community that is aesthetic to our general plan is so essential. And you can see that we have stakeholders who really care about this town. I work with them, I've gotten to know them, they're wonderful people. But you can see behind the scenes, we've got wonderful support, from our sheriffs, our fire department, our water district, our town planner, everybody. And so, anyway, I'm closing up with this and, are there any other dying questions that somebody wanted to get out before we close? Yes, ma'am.
We're seeing what's happening at Anderson Junction with the whole terrain being taken out.
Yeah,
I feel like one of the advantages we have in Leeds is that we can't be sprawled because we have hills. And I wonder if the town has plans to protect that, to keep developers from coming in and just leveling out the land.
So we have ordinances, I'll tell you right now, the hills, the way this works, and Lynn can attest to this because we've been sitting in court for the last 2 years on it. Fortunately or unfortunately, the laws were written before I came in. So anything between 10 and 20%, you're probably going to be able to just work on. You're going to be able to build. Anything between 20% and 30% requires the town council to approve. Anything over 30%, we don't even get to say. It's just off limits. We can't touch it. And so those are statutes, those are codified. Go ahead, Len.
Pull back on that part about if UDOT deeds Main Street back to Leeds, does that mean Leeds won't get as much money from UDOT anymore to take care of that?
Right, we maintain. But when we've got, 3,000 new people living in Leeds, I think we'll be able to go there.
Thanks to June Forest Day for getting that done back when.
One more time.
Thanks to June Forest Day for working with the state to get it designated on the highway.
Oh, okay, yeah, I don't know who he is but that's wonderful, yeah.
So one comment, this is just to bring people up to speed. It's not just the Water Conservancy that's bringing that 24-inch pipeline up to your town. The Leeds Water Company is also putting a 10-inch line up parallel to that line. We've got a 50-year-old line out there that needs to be replaced. We're upgrading that both in quality and in size. So that'll be put in at the same time, create less problem of duplication. And right now, they're expecting to hit the city boundary in about mid-January.
That's a big deal. Yeah, thanks for doing that. And I think, the loan that we got for that is going to be really well exercised in making our community safe. Folks, I hope this was advantageous for you. I hope this gave you some information and answered some questions that you have. You can always reach out to me via email or my cell phone. The cell phone is not listed on the website. Otherwise, I'd be getting calls all the time from who knows what because they spam those. Just call the clerk. She'll hand you my cell phone. She's been told give it to anybody who asks for it. You can also email me anytime. I run another company that's very large, consumes a lot of my time, but I seriously am at least 40 hours a week dedicated to what we're doing here. And so I want you to know that we do everything we possibly can. I know it doesn't happen like this, but that's part of living in this small town. I hope this was advantageous to you. I want to give a special thanks to Chief Decker, to Zach Renstrom, to Nate Brooksby, giving us your support, your dedication. It means a lot. And thank you to all of you for showing up and giving us your feedback, and have a wonderful evening.
I'm going to ask, hi, I'm Martha Lamb. I'm here. You are my wife. So you're one of the developers.
Hey, grab some food, you guys. You don't want to take them home. There's bottles of water. There's meters of bread over there. We're not shutting this down.
I just wanna, I was involved, I lived in bottle of wine. I remember just giving that how. Thank you. Oh, the camera?
I'm just gonna shut this off. Right now. And stream. There we go.